We have the underground economy, which is everything, everything that's illegal counts as the underground economy. And as it is, there's a lot of people working for, some illicit enterprise once in a while, and the government should be collecting payroll taxes on that money that flows from employer to whoever they're paying. And of course, they can't collect those taxes because people don't report their earnings because they're getting them illegally. But with a fair tax, with the sales tax, there's no real reporting to be done. What will happen is, if there's money in illegal markets, let's say a guy gets money by selling drugs, right? That's illegal income. But he has income. Normally the income doesn't get taxed because he'll never report it. If no one ever finds him, then no one will ever get that money. But if it's a sales tax, then he sells his illegal drugs, he makes money, and then he has to spend that money, right? Even if he spends it on black market goods, and those black market people spend it on other black market things, and on, at some point this cash is going to go to a legitimate retailer or seller or business of some kind, right? And so then it gets taxed. It's a little more complicated than that, but they think that they'll be able to reclaim a lot of money that way that was otherwise lost to the underground. Okay, that's interesting. Other issues that arise, well, there's the question of what this will do to our economy. As I alluded to, there's a lot of studies, and they generally think this is a good thing. They think that capital, that is money, essentially, will flow into the United States because, for instance, there'll be no tax on gains on savings, right? So you're not buying anything. So you come in and put all your money in U.S. banks, businesses will like them, no tax on that. So that's probably good for the economy. Yeah, I guess so. There's taxing on... Let's see here. Oh, well, the other part of underground economy was illegal immigrants. They're mentioning that, if they're getting illicit wages, well, they'll still buy something eventually, and we're making money off of them, too, even though we're not, allowed to be here. We're making money off them, so I guess we get some revenge or whatever. I don't know. The immigrant issue is a whole different thing. But, so I think that they generally bring capital in, that probably generally be good for the economy. Certainly the simplicity, people just be nice to that. Nothing but the simplicity is it lends itself to great transparency. Every single time you make a purchase, you are reminded of the exact amount of your purchasing power that the federal government is taxing. There's nothing hidden there, no loopholes. There's a sales tax. There's one sales tax, and it applies to all sales. Note on that, though, the only thing in time gets taxed is when it's sold as a final good to a consumer. Which brings up questions of how do we define what a final good is? And maybe a business will buy a lot of stuff and then say, oh no wait, we don't have to pay tax on this because we're not buying it as consumers of the product, we're buying it for the purpose of making other stuff. Like, for instance, if a computer manufacturer, licenses out somebody else to make motherboards for them, right? The idea is that you can buy the motherboards from this other company and not have to pay any tax on it because it's not a final product yet. There's this other idea called the value-added tax, which means that every single time something increases in value and is sold at a higher price than it was bought for, there's a tax on that. And several other countries have that. I'm not sure if that's really good or what. There seems to be a lot of dispute in the, hour spent learning about this stuff like yesterday. But either way, whether it's consumer, if it's a final consumer good, then we can just find ways of figuring out what counts as final and what doesn't. And I guess there'll be a few IRS employees still around to figure out these sorts of things. Or possibly value added, if that works. Value added, though, gets rid of the transparency deal now, doesn't it? Because you just see, you, the consumer, would see a small portion of that, the final value added part of it, not see all the things added in the meantime. Possibly. Other issues? Oh, the 16th Amendment. I'm not sure why people hate it so much. I can see why you consider an income tax to be inferior to a sales tax. Some people, though, have seen up in arms, like the income tax is ruining everything or something. I don't know. They have in their FairTax legislation that, I think it's You pass the bill, and there's a sunset provision, as they call it, which says you must repeal the 16th Amendment within 5 years, otherwise this bill becomes null, and a fair tax goes away. Which seems weird. I mean, can't we just, the fair tax bill itself gets rid of the income tax and all other taxes. So can't we just pass the law and fix the tax system and then worry about an amendment if we need it later? I mean, you could do that to any bill. You could say education. Let's say you have a bill to spend more on education, and someone's like, oh, wait, Congress might someday, repeal this bill and start spending less. So we need a constitutional amendment to make sure they spend money on education. Which, depending on the wording of the amendment, I guess maybe would make sense. What doesn't make sense is the tying it into the bill and saying, okay, unless you make an amendment, then the education funds go away, or whatever. In this case, it's, unless you make an amendment to get rid of the 16th Amendment, then fair tax disappears. I don't know, I guess they're trying to get Congress to commit, but, I don't know, do the law first, come up with the amendment later. But overall, it seems like a fairly reasonable idea. So we have one tax that's very simple. Anyone can understand that. We lose a lot of layers of bureaucracy. We increase privacy. If there are any concerns about due process and stuff, that's not much of a concern anymore with the IRS not investigating individual people. It's nice, it's nice. And theoretically, it's good for the economy. Well, if all that actually is as true as it sounds, and I haven't seen a whole lot of criticism of fair tax, I mean, here and there, but no one's like, this thing is just, entirely based on false premises. So it seems fairly reasonable. Maybe that's what we should do. Thanks for watching. See you later.